Welcome, Mike Passaretti. Mike Passaretti has been working in robotics for the past 14 years. He studied computer science and electrical engineering at NJIT. And after completing his bachelor's degree, he began his career as an electrical controls engineer for a small robotics company in New York City. In the first 5 years of his career, he worked in 4 space projects, including 2 NASA Mars missions. Mike is very proud of his contributions to the Phoenix lander and the Curiosity rover missions that he can point to in pictures and science books of his work. 5 years ago, Mike left the aerospace industry to focus on pipeline robotics and commercializing technology at ULC Robotics. Mike's team builds aircraft technology and support equipment to operate UAVs, which are drones, in the US and soon the UK. They're developing some of the first UAVs that will be used for flying hundreds of miles to provide services over land and also offshore. Wow, welcome, Mike. Your background is absolutely amazing. NASA, Mars, UAVs. Tell me about how you came to do this kind of work.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you for having me. I came about this type of work because I was always interested in building things and in science and math from a very, very young age. So in some ways, I've always been doing the same thing my whole life, which is just building things and pursuing things that are interesting to me. It took me into education within engineering. That took me into a pretty fun career so far that you've described. So I've always kind of been the same person, just pursuing the things that are fun and important to me, and here I am.
Wow. So, did you always want to be an engineer, or did you want a career in something else when you were young?
At a very young age, I pretty quickly figured out, and I think my parents pretty quickly figured out, that I was a very hands-on type kid. I needed to be outside. I needed to be climbing trees. I needed to be getting trouble digging holes in the backyard. I like to play with tools. I like to learn how to use new tools. I always needed more wood and nails to build the things that I needed to do. So my parents definitely helped cultivate that type of childhood. They encouraged me to build things, to go outside, to get lost, to go on adventures and have fun. So as I got older and started to get better about, I guess, articulating the things that I wanted to do and understanding what type of professions were out there that might be interesting to me as a very young kid, I started to gravitate towards things that involved math, things that involved drawing, things that involved space, and anything like that. I was just immediately gravitated towards. So for a little while, I think I was into drawing cartoons, and my parents bought me a couple of books to teach me how to draw, but some paper and pencils. And I think that turned into architecture, drawing buildings and tree houses and the things that I wanted to build. So I got T-squares and drawing boards and pencils and all the things you might find in a somewhat dated drafting class. And that slowly turned into more math and engineering and gears and motors and computers. And it all just kind of snowballed as I figured out what I enjoyed doing and how to align that with a professional career. So fast forward to high school, I was learning programming languages on my own. I was buying motors and gears out of the back of magazines that I had followed, assembling all those things to build my projects. So I had a very, very active childhood, very, very active in building things, building rockets, science projects, anything you could possibly imagine to fuel my desire to learn. So I didn't learn about engineering really until I was a little bit older, until I was 13, 14 years old, and learning about what it meant to be an engineer and what the different disciplines of engineering were. And that's when I really started to focus on what I wanted to do. And it was going to be either mechanical engineering, computer science, electrical engineering, or something along those lines. So I ended up going with a computer engineering program at NJIT, which is a hybrid electrical engineering and computer science degree.
Was school easy for you?
School was not easy for me. From day one in kindergarten all the way up to getting my bachelor's degree, I had a hard time at different points in school. It kind of came and went, but I can vividly remember not really enjoying school very much, particularly when I was younger, because I was not bored, but maybe you could say I was bored. I didn't really understand what all this stuff that was being fed to me. I look forward to certain classes like math and science where I saw practical kind of applications, but I really didn't enjoy it because the subject matter was hard. I always found it hard to learn things that I wasn't interested in, and I think in some ways we're all like that. So it wasn't until there were classes that I genuinely were interested in that I got interested in school. So in middle school, that was things like shop class. We still had shop class when I was in school, and that meant you got to use tools in school, and I thought that was just the best thing in the world. By the time I got to high school and the classes started to get harder, shop classes got replaced with things called technology courses, so things that involve more critical thinking and problem solving, which was right up my alley. I struggled in high school, though, in other classes, including some of my science classes. And it wasn't until I was probably a junior in high school that I started to finally see the light and realize that if I buckled down and learned the things that people were trying to teach me, particularly in the area of just science and technology and math, that I would be able to do more, build bigger machines, solve more complex problems, and just have more fun doing the things that I really enjoyed. So I had to kind of grow up a little bit and do better in school, and I did. I excelled. I did really, really well in my final couple years of high school, and the same thing kind of happened in college. I started college, had a really tough time, as any first-year engineering student usually does, but it wasn't until the gap between what I was learning and how to apply it to real world problems started to shrink. And once I saw that, then I just excelled. So college was really fun in the last couple of years, but it was really hard in the first couple of years for me personally.
I hear that from a lot of kids that school is hard for them because it's hard to apply it to what would be in real life. So I appreciate you telling me your story about that struggle because you certainly have succeeded. What's next for you after NASA, Mars, and UAVs? What else is in store for you?
So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's no limit. I'm a very, very curious person. I take great enjoyment in my work, but also in my hobbies. So I'm constantly thinking about where to go and what to do and what I can build that will kind of help to continue maintain that stimulus. So I've been involved in rocketry from a very early age, since I was about 10 or 11 years old. That was a big part of my childhood, and it gave me an outlet to do stuff that I thought was really fun, but it also gave me a way of learning things like basic trigonometry and physics and things like that you learn when you start getting into rocketry. So I was exposing myself to those things when I was 10 and 11 years old, and I didn't quite realize it at the time, and I didn't quite understand it all. Unfortunately, there wasn't any rocketry courses in school when I was that age, and really even through high school. But that's a thing that I enjoy working on very much. It's something that I continue to work on to this day. So I spend a lot of time working on my rocketry projects. That's taken me all over the world. So I've flown rockets in Australia, I've flown rockets in the United States, and I have some pretty big projects planned. So that'll be a big focus of mine for sure over the next couple years and into the foreseeable future. And professionally, really enjoying what I'm doing right now. So my engineering degree has taken me through a tremendous engineering career, but it's also created opportunities to manage projects and to manage teams of people. And now I'm running a business, a new business to stand up what we call an aerial service business. So that is to provide drones as a service to our customers. So things are changing pretty fast, and I'm really enjoying it.
Wow, so that sounds exciting. We're going to have to follow up with you to hear more about what you continue to do. Do you have any recommendations for kids?
I do, and it may sound kind of cliche, but it's so true. And When I was a kid, I think as I kind of described, I was always very curious and just naturally interested in things, particularly in the area of what we now call STEM. So science, technology, engineering, and math. And I was just drawn to those things. I think the important things for kids to keep in mind is that if you have an interest in those areas, that's fantastic. But you should speak up. You should ask questions. You should try to find people that will help answer your questions. It may or may not be your parents, depending on what kind of questions you're asking, and that's okay. There's other people you can talk to. Unfortunately, not everybody's going to be tremendously helpful, and some people might shoo you away. I certainly experienced that, but don't be discouraged. If you're interested in something, just keep asking questions. Go to the library, get books, do whatever you have to do to keep learning. So the list of things that I've accomplished, it's my career, it's my life now. I don't think about it the same way that some others might from the outside looking in, but there's nothing that I did that somebody else can't do. I look at people that I think have accomplished way more than I have, and I aspire to do what they did. And I know it's possible because they're human and I'm human. And if you put your mind to it, you can figure it out. So don't be discouraged. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to bug people. Don't be afraid to follow the things that interest you and to ask for help.
We are so thrilled at the Mentor Project to have you on board with us as a mentor, as someone who's given tours to kids at ULC. And I hope that you would be willing to take questions from kids who might have some about what you do.
Definitely. I would love to at any time.
Great. I want to thank you, Mike Passaretti, for talking with me today. And I look forward to all the great mentoring that you're going to be doing and all the great work that you're going to be continuing to do. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.